He still knelt before her, her ankle gently cradled in his hand. But their eyes refused to part. Locked, like they were seeing the truth of each other for the very first time. A silence hung between them, thick, charged, trembling with something unspoken. And then, slowly, Arnav stood. But the gaze never broke. As he rose, so did the gravity of the moment. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. Just looked. His eyes drank her in, from the wind-tossed strands of her hair to the soft curve of her lips, to the way her red sari clung to her like fire sculpted in silk. Red, his favorite color. And for the first time in years, it didn't remind him of control or power or anger. It reminded him of her, a walking storm of elegance and chaos wrapped in red. The poolside light flickered softly, and fairy lights danced across her face, as if the universe itself was trying to make her more beautiful. He took a step toward her, and she, without even realizing, took a step back, still staring into his eyes, still caught. Her breath faltered, another step from him, another retreat from her. Her heartbeat now a wild, nervous flutter. Dock, 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 dock. One more step, and another. Until finally, her back touched the wall. She stopped. He didn't. He kept walking until there was no space left between them. Just heat, breath, uncertainty, longing. His face hovered inches from hers. His scent, earthy, warm, intoxicating, wrapped around her like a secret. And still, no words. Because what could words possibly say that their eyes hadn't already screamed? She could barely breathe. He could barely think. He wasn't just looking at her anymore. He was searching her. For the reason why, for the first time in his life, everything he built, everything he buried, felt like it was starting to come undone. And her? She couldn't decide whether to run or stay frozen in this impossible nearness. Because in that moment, nothing else existed. Not Diwali, not the mansion, not the world. Just two strangers who weren't strangers at all. And the wall that now held her in place, while his presence threatened to break every wall she'd built inside. Her back was against the wall, his breath against her skin, their hearts pounding in rhythms they no longer controlled. And then he moved, slowly, deliberately. His hand, warm and steady, lifted. And with a gentleness no one had ever seen in Arnav Singh Raizada, he reached out and tucked the fluttering strands of her hair behind her ear. His fingers brushed her skin, a whisper of a touch, but it struck through her like lightning. Khushi gasped softly. Her hand clutched the edge of her sari near her waist, not in modesty, but in helplessness, as if that fragile fabric could steady the storm inside her. His eyes never left hers, not for a second. And then his other hand rose. With a tenderness she didn't expect from a man known to be carved of ice, he cupped her cheek. His thumb brushed her jawline. Her breath hitched. She could feel her world narrowing. To him, to now, to this. Desire wasn't loud between them. It was silent, sacred, unnamed. Like something ancient that had lived in their souls long before they ever met. He leaned in. Their foreheads nearly touched. His nose grazed hers. His lips a heartbeat away. And her eyes closed as if surrendering. As if saying yes. Yes to the madness. Yes to the moment. Yes to the man who made her forget who she was and remember who she could be. And then, laughter. A burst of it. From upstairs. From his room. Jolting, shattering. Voices. Familiar. Loud. Oblivious. But enough. Enough to snap the spell. Enough to make them both remember that the world still existed outside this moment. Arnav's eyes opened, still hovering inches from hers, now stunned, pulled back into reality. Khushi's lashes fluttered and then lifted. Confused, embarrassed, breathless. She looked at him. He looked at her. And suddenly, the silence between them wasn't intimate anymore. It was interrupted. The laughter above faded into footsteps, and with that one sound, everything shattered. Arnav blinked as if waking from a trance. His body still close, but his mind scrambling to make sense of what just happened. He stepped back. One pace, then another. Eyes still on her. Trying to understand how, in just one moment, she had undone every wall he'd built around himself. He could hear them now. Anjali, Lavanya, Nani. Their voices coming closer towards the poolside. But his eyes remained on her. And her eyes, wide and stunned, flooded with something unspoken, looked everywhere but at him. Then, in a single breath, she jolted. as if suddenly aware of her surroundings, of the closeness, of him. Her heart pounded, not from desire anymore, but from panic. What was I doing? How could I let him get so close? Shame, fear, confusion. They all collided inside her like a storm she couldn't contain. And then she turned and ran. Fast. Faster than thought. Faster than emotion could catch up. Hey, his voice, low and stunned, followed her. Khushi, wait, listen. But she didn't. She couldn't. Not now. Her footsteps faded into the distance. Arnav stood frozen, jaw clenched, fist tightening by his side. The silence left behind screamed louder than any words. And then, before he could move, they arrived. Anjali, Lavanya, Nanny, at the poolside, smiling, talking. Unaware of the fire that had almost burned and the girl who had just run from it. The sound of her footsteps had barely faded when they arrived. Anjali, Lavanya, Nanny, all glowing in celebration, their smiles untouched by the storm that had just passed. Anjali's eyes lit up the moment she saw him. Oh no, Chote, you're still not ready? She pouted playfully. Come on, you're the guest of honor tonight. She looped her arm through his and tugged gently. And yes, get dressed in your best, okay? Nani has to make a very special announcement related to you. She winked again. Arnav's brow furrowed. Announcement? What? No ifs and buts, Chote. No more disappearing into corners. The party's about to begin, and you are the star tonight. Nani nodded softly, her voice warm but firm. Come quickly, we are all waiting. Lavanya's smile widened, eyes full of hope. She lingered behind a moment longer, her gaze seeking something, anything from him. But Arnav said nothing. He offered no smile, no warmth, not even a glance, because his heart was still by the pool. He stepped into his room, closed the door behind him, and for a second, he just stood there, eyes unfocused, hands still, breath heavier than usual. Then, almost on autopilot, he walked to the wardrobe, pulled out a crisp black kurta, silver detailing, minimal, elegant, powerful. He laid it on the bed, removed his shirt, reached for the new one. But as he began buttoning it, his fingers slowed, because his mind didn't stay with him. It drifted uninvited back to the poolside. Her eyes widened in surprise and then closed in surrender. Her breath soft, trembling, mixed with his. The way she clutched her sari, not because she was shy, but because she felt it too. The storm, the pull, the chaos he'd buried for years awakening with just one girl in red. And her lips parted just slightly as if they were waiting, as if she wanted him to close that distance, to kiss her, to fall. And he almost had. He had wanted to, with a hunger that terrified him, with a gentleness he didn't know he possessed. He buttoned the last of his kurta, his jaw clenched, his chest tightened. Why her? Why now? Why the hell can't I stop thinking about her? He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Not with her. With himself. Because Arnav Singh Raizada didn't lose control, didn't chase women, didn't believe in whatever this was. And yet she had run, and he wanted to go after her. Downstairs, the party had begun. Laughter danced through the grand hall. Music swirled in the air like incense, light, celebratory. The Raizada mansion shimmered with gold and joy, voices rising in cheer, hands clapping to dole beats. But not him, not Arnav Singh Raizada. He stood near the staircase, dressed to perfection. Eyes sharp, jaw set, posture regal. But his heart unmoored. His gaze swept across the crowd again and again. Nani, Doctor, Lavanya, business partners, guests, laughter, applause. But not her. Not the one person he hadn't stopped thinking about. Not the girl in red who had nearly rewritten his fate a few hours ago. Where did she go? Why did she run like that? Is she okay? He clenched the glass in his hand a little tighter. Because for a man who never looked for anyone, tonight, he was searching. Upstairs, the study. Khushi sat alone, hands in her lap, eyes on the closed window, unmoving. But her mind? A war zone. What just happened? How could I lose myself like that? Her fingers trembled, gripping the edge of her dupatta as if it could hold her together. She had come to decorate, to plan, to organize, not to feel, not to melt, not to stand beneath fairy lights and almost let him kiss her. Her phone buzzed suddenly, sharp and jarring. She flinched. The screen lit up. Buaji calling. She hesitated, then picked up. Han Buaji. Her voice was soft. Too soft. Khushi bitya. How long will this take? It's getting late, I'm worried. Sabthi kena? Khushi exhaled. She didn't want to lie, but she couldn't tell the truth either. Sabthi kai, Buaji. You know how these parties are. They run late. I'll be home soon. Don't worry. Jaldi Anya. And don't forget to eat something. Gee, she smiled faintly. I will. The call ended, and silence returned. She stood slowly, pressing a hand to her chest, willing her heartbeat to slow down. But it wouldn't, because he was still in her thoughts, still in her breath. How do I face him now? How do I walk into that party and pretend like nothing happened? She closed her eyes for a moment, inhaled. And when she opened them, her face had changed. Not into calm, but into Khushi Kumari Gupta, the professional. The girl who showed up. Who did her job. Who didn't let emotions ruin perfection. You came here to work, Khushi. Not to fall, not to feel, not to lose yourself. Straightening her sari, she lifted her chin, put a shaky smile in place, and stepped out of the study, down the stairs, back into the world, back into his orbit. The chandeliers sparkled like stars in the night sky. Laughter and soft instrumental music filled the air. Waiters passed trays of mocktails and hors d'oeuvres as elite guests mingled across the beautifully lit hall. Arnav stood near the French Baroque mirror, engaged in conversation with one of his business associates, nodding absent-mindedly at a merger proposal when suddenly his breath hitched. His heart skipped a beat. There she was, Khushi Kumari Gupta, descending the grand staircase. Step by step, she came into view, draped in the same red sari that had already threatened his sanity earlier that evening, her silhouette glowing under the ambient golden lights. The delicate fabric hugged her figure with effortless grace. Her hair was now loosely flowing, a few flickering strands dancing rebelliously with the gentle breeze from the open garden doors behind her. She wasn't looking at him. No, she was too absorbed, gracefully instructing the house staff to adjust the placements, guiding the caterers on what to serve next. Professional, focused, calm. But he could see her fingers slightly trembling as she flipped through the event checklist in her hand. Arnav couldn't look away. Not now. Not after what had just happened. Every fiber of his being was screaming to go to her. His business partner kept talking, trying to draw him back to the world of contracts and logistics, but it was useless. Arnav's eyes were locked, mesmerized, tracing every step she took down the stairs. And then it happened. Their eyes met. Just as she reached the last step, their gaze collided like a storm reuniting with the ocean. A single heartbeat stretched into eternity. But this time, Khushi looked away. Deliberately, quickly, with intent. She walked right past him, her eyes never turning back. Instead, she walked directly to Anjali, her tone professional as she asked if the arrangements were in place, her expressions controlled and practiced. Arnav stood frozen, stunned, confused. Avoiding him? Did she just ignore him? That had never happened before. For the first time, Arnav Singh Raizada found himself not in control. And it only made him want her more. The camera follows Arnav as he walks through the warmly lit living room, guests chattering, soft music playing, fairy lights twinkling. He spots Khushi standing with Anjali, her smile gentle, her hands respectfully folded. She was asking Anjali if she needed help. Just as Arnav begins walking toward them, Khushi catches sight of him from the corner of her eye. Khushi, softly and quickly. Anjali ji, I'll go check on the dinner preparations once again, just to be sure. Before Arnav could reach them, she had already slipped away. Arnav's brows knit, confused, restless. His gaze doesn't leave her figure as she moves swiftly toward the kitchen, her sari fluttering behind like it was mocking him. Anjali teasing, "Chote? Everything okay? You look distracted." Arnav absently, "Yeah, Dee, I need to check on the snacks." He doesn't wait for her response, already walking away. Instructing the staff with precision, plating the starters just right, checking the warmth of the main course, her voice confident, but her eyes flickering to the door. And there he was, Arnav Singh Raizada, leaning at the kitchen doorway, eyes burning through her. Her breath hitched. She quickly turned her gaze away, focusing on the workers. But one by one, they began leaving. She looked around, puzzled, until her eyes met his. His simple, silent, commanding glance had cleared the room. Now, just the two of them. She tried to move past him, tried to escape again, but not this time. In a swift movement, Arnav grabbed her wrist and pulled her back. Her body collided gently against his chest, her back to him. His breath grazed her ear, his voice low and husky. "Wait, you can't keep running from me." Khushi's lips parted, her breath uneven, her heart thudding like thunder trapped in her chest. I'm not... Arnav, cutting her off. "Don't lie, Khushi. I can see it. You've been avoiding me since the moment I walked in." He gently but firmly turned her to face him. Eyes locked. Silence screamed between them. Khushi, soft and strained. "Arnav ji, I'm here as the event planner. I have duties to fulfill. I need to make sure everything runs perfectly so." Before she could finish, Arnav placed his finger softly over her lips. "Shh." He looked into her eyes, that storm inside him clearly visible now. Then he pulled away, letting go of her wrist. But his voice stayed firm. "I know you're busy, Miss Khushi Kumari Gupta, but we need to talk." She hesitated for just a moment, then turned her eyes away and walked out, leaving Arnav standing there, eyes narrowed, jaw tight, fury flickering behind his calm. "Chote, come quick. Nani wants to make her special announcement." Arnav, still rooted at the kitchen door for a second longer, exhales, slow and heavy. "What the hell is this girl doing to me?" He walks off, composed on the outside, but inside, the storm was only getting worse. Precap, Episode 3. Nayani announced the engagement of Arnav and Lavanya.